95% of the people watching this video will earn more than $2 million in their lifetime, yet 90% of them will die broke. The math doesn't add up, does it? We've been conditioned to believe that wealth is a game of addition, more hours, more hustles, more income. But in the cold, calculated world of the 1%, wealth is actually a game of subtraction. It's not about what you build, it's about what you stop leaking. You feel it every single morning, that quiet, nagging anxiety when you open your banking app. You're earning more than you did 3 years ago, yet your net worth feels like it's stuck in wet concrete. You're running faster, but the horizon isn't getting any closer. This isn't a lack of effort, it's a systemic erosion. You're currently trapped in a high-definition cage where your rising income is being perfectly intercepted by invisible taxes, social status traps, and economic mental models designed to keep you as a permanent tenant in someone else's empire. You aren't losing the race because you're slow. You're losing because you're carrying a backpack full of lead weights that the system told you were essential gear. Today, we are stripping away the noise. We aren't talking about get-rich-quick hacks of the latest crypto trend. We are deconstructing the 4 pillars of wealth destruction. From the status tax that is silently melting your compounding power, to the linear income trap that is stealing your most non-renewable resource, time. Stick with me, because in the final chapter, I will reveal the subtraction secret, the one mental pivot used by the ultra-wealthy to ensure their capital grows, even when the global economy is in a freefall. Most people spend their lives building a leaky bucket. Today, we stop the leaks. The first anchor dragging your financial ship into the abyss is Pillar 1, the status and debt cage. In the 1% perspective, there's a cold distinction between riches and wealth. Riches is the loud, shiny object, the financed German sedan, the designer watch, the glass-walled apartment in a Tier 1 city. Wealth, however, is silent. It's the assets that produce freedom. Most people commit financial suicide by purchasing the status before they own the capital. Imagine your bank account as a pressurized oxygen tank. Every time you swipe that platinum credit card for a lifestyle you haven't earned, you aren't just spending money, you're opening a valve. You can almost hear the hiss of your future freedom escaping into the void. That gold card in your wallet feels like status, but it's actually a parasitic leak, charging you 24% annually to impress people who don't even like you. While your savings account feels the slow melt of 2026 inflation, high-interest consumer debt is a flamethrower. Data from the Federal Reserve shows that the average household is now drowning, spending nearly 10% of their disposable income just to service interest. That's 10% of your life force deleted before you even buy a loaf of bread. The 1% don't avoid debt, they avoid bad debt. They never trade a high-interest liability for a depreciating asset. If it doesn't buy back your time, it's a cage. We've identified the status tax, but there's a deeper, more exhausting trap. It's a trap that feels like the grind and looks like ambition, but it's actually a roadmap to a dead end. In the next chapter, we're deconstructing the linear income trap and why your current hustle might be the very thing making sure you never get rich. Pillar 2 is the most common grave for ambition, the linear income trap. In the 2026 economy, hustle culture has become a sophisticated scam. You've been told to grind after your 9-to-5, but most people are just picking up a second job disguised as a business. If your income requires your physical presence, if you are driving for a rideshare app, doing basic freelance data entry, or selling handmade goods one by one, you aren't building wealth. You are merely renting out your remaining life force for a slightly higher hourly rate. This is a zero-sum game. In a linear model, your earning potential is mathematically capped by the 24 hours in a day. The 1% avoid these roles because they understand the power of convexity. They don't want a side hustle, they want an asset.
They only invest their time in activities where the input is decoupled from the output, where 1 hour of work can serve 10,000 people while they sleep. Think of your energy as seed grain. If you eat the grain to survive today, linear income, you have nothing to plant for tomorrow. Every hour you spend on a low-leverage task is a ghost hour. It's gone forever, leaving no legacy. You must stop being the engine that moves the car and start being the architect who designs the assembly line. But even the best architects can be blinded. There is a specific group of people you listen to every day, voices that sound like wisdom but act like mental handcuffs. In the next chapter, we're exposing the intellectual fog and why the safe advice from your favorite gurus is actually the primary cause of your financial stagnation.
The third anchor is the most invisible, the intellectual fog. We are currently living in an era of information obesity. You are drowning in financial content, yet starving for actual results. The trap here is twofold: the expert echo chamber and emotional liquidity. Most of the advice you consume on your feed is designed for the average, and in the world of the 1%, average is a death sentence. Mainstream gurus sell you comfort food for the mind, strategies like save your pennies or wait 40 years, while the institutions they work for are using asymmetric leverage to front-run the very markets they tell you to fear. Following mass market advice is like trying to win a chess match using a manual for checkers. It feels responsible, but it leaves you perpetually behind. But even if you find the right map, your biology is waiting to sabotage you. This is emotional liquidity, the moment you allow your amygdala to drive your financial vehicle. Think of the feeling when you see a sea of red on a market chart. That visceral, stomach-churning panic isn't intuition, it's a biological glitch. The 1% understand that the market is a machine designed to transfer wealth from the impatient to the patient. When you sell your future for a moment of peace from the panic, you are providing liquidity for the cold, calculated players who are waiting for your blood in the streets. You must avoid the trap of thinking your gut feeling is an asset. In 2026, the only competitive advantage is an ironclad indifference to the noise. You've cleared the fog and mastered your mind, but there is one final predator, a silent legal entity that takes its cut before you even see your paycheck. In our final chapter, we are deconstructing the silent predator, and I will reveal the subtraction secret that changes everything. The final anchor, and the one that keeps the most productive members of society in a state of perpetual financial puberty, is Pillar 4, the silent predator. In the Tier 1 economies of the US and UK, tax is not a fixed cost, it is a variable expense based entirely on your level of financial literacy. The average person works from January until May just to satisfy their obligations to the state. They earn, they get taxed, and then they try to build a life on the scraps. This is the earn, tax, spend trap. It is the single biggest leak in your compounding engine, effectively deleting decades of potential growth before you even see a dime. The 1% operate on the inverse. They avoid the tax ignorance gap by utilizing legal structures, LLCs, ISAs, or specialized trusts to pivot to the earn-spend tax model. They understand that $1 saved in tax is worth more than $1 earned in income because it carries no cost of acquisition. If you aren't thinking about your tax-efficient exit before you even enter a trade, you're not an investor, you're a donor. This brings us to the subtraction secret. The realization is simple, yet it's the bridge between the middle class and the elite. Wealth is not about finding the perfect addition, it is about eliminating the friction. If you stop the leaks, the high-interest debt, the emotional trading, the status-seeking spending, and the tax ignorance, the natural state of your capital is to grow. You don't need to be a genius to get rich, you just need to stop being your own biggest predator. You've spent your life trying to pour more water into a leaky bucket.
Today, we've identified the holes. The map is in your hands. Now, the question is, will you keep carrying the lead weights, or will you choose to move with exit velocity? If you want a dedicated blueprint on the specific tax-efficient structures the 1% are using to protect their capital in 2026, comment "System" below. If the interest is there, I'll pull back the curtain on the exact legal frameworks. This is Capital Secrets. Your evolution is now.